AEW fans, listen up, because Goldberg just recently spoke about the promotion and Tony Khan, and you are not going to want to miss what this man had to say, because look, whether you like him or you don't, you think he's overrated or underrated, you think he is justifiably has a reputation of who he is, Goldberg will always be in the history books as one of the most unique cases in the history of the pro wrestling business. And he comes from an older generation. And so when it comes to AEW, there is a little bit of a change in the air, right? AEW has helped change the game of pro wrestling since launching in 2019, trying to bring a fight to WWE in which we have not seen since the glory days of WCW. Ironically, glory days of WCW that witnessed the rise of the Goldberg creation, right? A guy that legitimately would run people over as his finisher. That was what Goldberg brought. He brought intensity to his matches. He brought a mystique to his matches early on. That was something that Kevin Sullivan, a key figure behind the scenes at WCW, they wanted. And when there was reports and rumors going back to last year, even earlier this year, that Goldberg may go to AEW, it made people question why. Why would he go to AEW? Now, of course, Goldberg, and he admitted in a recent interview that he can be negative. He has a negative mindset. But we've seen former WWE and WCW talent. I think of Sting as the biggest WCW talent. Obviously, Ric Flair. You had Paul White. Various stars, right, that have come or made a name for themselves in WCW or had a big run in WCW and eventually go to AEW. There was a lot of questions about whether or not Sting's run would even last, how it would last, and I would say he has probably the best retirement match and tour in the history of the wrestling business. Now, Goldberg was recently on Chris Van Vliet, and he talked about a wide range of topics, including his talks with AEW. Now, AEW Prez Tony Khan has stated in past interviews that he was keeping an eye on Goldberg after Goldberg's contract with WWE had expired. And in case you didn't know, Goldberg is a little salty towards Vince McMahon, okay? Let's go back, because he put over Roman Reigns in Saudi Arabia. He was, quote-unquote, promised a retirement match by Vinnie Mac. That never happened. Vinnie Mac was later pulled from power after not delivering on that promise, and the company decided to not renew Goldberg's contract. He's talked about how he's wanted to go and do his own retirement tour. I don't know if we'll ever get to see that. Goldberg has stated in the past that he thinks that AEW's product is too cheesy, and there was not a chance that he would go to AEW to do one more match. Now, while speaking with Chris Van Vliet, Goldberg talked about Tony Khan and talked about his talks with AEW. He said, I do think we have a different perspective on it. It's hard for me to really pass judgment on their product because I don't watch it. I see clips of it, and it's hard to give a rational breakdown of how they are. I don't really watch it, so I don't really know. He, Tony Khan, reminds me of Dixie Carter, but a male version. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but he reminds me of that scenario, and that's just a different feeling. It's just different, end quote. Now, let me pause on that. So, in regards to AEW and TNA, obviously TNA headed by former President Dixie Carter, there have been comparisons by some, and rightfully so, that AEW and Tony Khan has the same tendencies of a TNA and a Dixie Carter, where if there was a name in WWE that was available in the free agent market and they had any bit of equity within the fan base or any bit of star power, they would bring them in for a run. AEW has been like that as well, but they've also been like that with New Japan talent and MLW talent and other talents across the world. It's not just WWE, something in which TNA did. It's really honed in on everyone across the board. In regards to whether or not he was close to coming to AEW and his idea for a Sting, to be part of Sting's retirement, he said no. I don't think he was ever close to making a deal with them. I think it was much more of a realistic transition that when Sting was involved. That's why I reached out to Sting, because I wanted to be part of it. I thought he and I could do a farewell thing at some point together. But it wasn't about me. It was about Sting. And I can never overshadow anything that he does, but I don't want to conquer the waters. It would have been a nice scenario, or crescendo, but it wasn't about me. So the timing was off, end quote. So I still stand by the fact that I don't think Goldberg would have fit in AEW whatsoever. It just wouldn't have fit. He's older. He also doesn't fit the product, right? Think about this. Goldberg is all about intensity, power, the entrance. You're in and you're out within, 4, 5, 7, 10 minutes at the most, and you're stretching it at 10. AEW, on the other hand, it is all about that in-ring action. It's the pacing, it's the timing, it's the, long matches and stiff, almost, Japan-style, European-style wrestling. That doesn't fit Goldberg, right? And I think the fan base would have resented it. The reason that Sting was so over in AEW is because at first, yes, it was the novelty of Sting, and it was the fact that we thought he was going to be retired for good after being medically cleared, and then he came back, and they automatically paired him with a fan favorite in Darby Allin. So you have two fan favorite stars. You have Sting, who at first worked cinematic matches, but also as he progressed in AEW, and he did so very quickly, he changed his style where everything he did, it mattered and it was memorable, right? He was not in a situation where he was doing one-on-one matches where he would be overexposed for his age and his limitations, right? They really, really did a fantastic job with Sting. Could you have done that with a Goldberg? I guess, but I think it would also have been a different dynamic. I think Sting's pairing with Darby Allin does not get talked about enough. I think Darby Allin is a much bigger star than people want to give him credit, want to give AEW credit in that regard. I think it's going to be a situation where Goldberg does not have a retirement match. I think he's done. I think it's over with. He's talked about how he's got nagging injuries. He's undergoing stem cell therapies and the like. I just don't know if we ever get to see Goldberg back in the ring. And if it was his final match against Roman Reigns, you know what? That's not a bad way to go out. I can think of a lot of different scenarios in which is a much, much worse scenario for a wrestler to end down a legendary career, right? Going out with a big-time name in a big-time match on a big-time scale for big-time money. Yeah, I think most would go for it.